Hi guys, this is Melanie. This is the Saxophone Extra Credit. Basically, I just wanted to kind of talk about what, in theory, I would do with the very first person saxophone lesson. Very first thing is the neck strap. We're going to talk about the neck strap, to how it should go on. First of all, we put the neck strap on, and we want to make sure that the saxophone is not actually being held up by us, but the neck strap is actually being supported. You can test this by when you put the saxophone up to your mouth, it's actually being supported, and you can check the student to see if they're bringing it up to themselves or if it's the saxophone or the neck strap itself, and it's kind of actually being harnessed up, if that makes any sense. The next thing I want to talk about is the reed. Actually, no, it's not. The next thing I want to talk about is the mouthpiece. On the saxophone, the mouthpiece should go down further than you think it should. Pretty much, I wouldn't say all the way down, but I would say maybe 66% of the way down. Again, you can see what is happening with the student. Most students are going to not actually put it down far enough, causing them to be either flat or have some issues with sealing. You just want to, it'll actually be a lot easier for them to be able to make sure how far down it is, especially if you're hearing air leaking problems or the students having problems with air support, making sure that it's all the way down there. But you really want to make sure that that you have cork grease on your cork to be able to do so. The other thing I want to talk about is the reed itself. You want to put the reed in your mouth. You want to let it soak and make sure it's thoroughly soaked. Again, the reed is kind of like a living thing. If it's dry in any kind of capacity, you're going to have a lot of issues with getting sound out. It's really important to actually do that, just to make sure that everything can be kind of good together. And then next is the ligature. The ligature has most of the time something that tells you how far down on the mouthpiece it goes. Especially brands like Summer. I think Yamaha also does this, where their mouthpieces and their ligatures fit together, so you know where it should go on the actual mouthpiece. You want to make sure that that's far enough down too, but it's also not far too down. On top of that, the next thing we're going to talk about is embouchure. So the saxophone embouchure is going to be basically, the first thing we're going to do is make sure that we're not tense. Any tension is going to be pretty bad with this instrument, and normally any wind instrument. Just a nice, relaxed, I like to say, like, if you're gonna say because again, you're gonna put this on your mouth, but you're gonna cover that bottom lip on the instrument and fold over, right? I tend to take up too much lip into my mouth because I'm a brass player, and I think that's what we're going to do. I'm horrifically wrong, and I also learned wrong, so that doesn't help. But if I see students going like that's just not it. Again, a nice control, because if you have too much in, it's gonna be tense, and you're gonna most likely bite down. And then the top lip is gonna actually cover on top of that. Right. The next thing we're gonna do is actually try to make a sound. You can actually make a sound on the mouthpiece by itself. I don't know if there's an exact pitch to that, but again, if you hear that a student is having issue with air support or airstream, you can kind of help out with that. For instance, if a student just is not blowing fast enough air, or they're not blowing directly through the reed, it is probably an issue of air support. Or if you hear that if you hear like it's tense, it's most likely because the students are biting down. And again, you've never, especially for a new student, if they've never experienced what it feels like to blow through something and put something in their mouth and try to do something, like, it's most likely going to release either in tension or in just not an actual seal enrichment. You really do want to make sure everything is sealed. Again, the first thing I would do is try to have students make a sound through just the mouthpiece itself, and then the next thing I would do is put the horn or the mouthpiece to the. Oh, I didn't even talk about the neck of the instrument. I don't even know what I'm doing. the neck of the instrument is delicate. You don't really want to. Well, it's not too delicate, but you don't want to mess with the bending of it unless you really need to. So just be careful when you're putting the sax on, so that you're not bending the neck, so that it actually seals the octave key when you put it on. Again, like if you like grip that and you just like twist it and you act like you don't care, you're most likely to break it. You really want to respect these instruments because like they cost money, A, and then B, they're gonna be your ride or die for a great amount of time. So really take care of the instruments. You want to make sure that you put the neck on, and if it has a tightener on it after you put the neck on, to do that. And we will make sure every time you take the neck off too that you actually undo it and unscrew it. Besides that, my first lesson would essentially be working on the C sharp, and C, really. Although it is kind of hard to get those notes sometimes, I feel, on the saxophone for the first time. If a student is just like really struggling with like how to actually blow through the horn, I mean, maybe we could just look at that. But also, I think a G is also a nice first note to actually be able to play. Being able to show students what hand is where. And now all of a sudden I'm thinking about, yeah, that's left hand on top, and then right hand on bottom, right? We want to show students how to do that. I wish I had a saxophone with me. We want to make sure that we're not, the first key on top is being covered, and then there's another key that is used for B flat, right? Here we want to make sure they're down, and then also your ring finger, and then your pinky's ready to go for like a G sharp or whatnot, and then all the bottom three fingers are ready to go on the bottom, so the student can hold, with your left thumb being near the octave key and your right pinky being near all the bottom register buttons, with your right thumb just supporting the saxophone. And most saxophones have a thumb rest for you to actually do that. Yeah, I think that's kind of pretty much it. That's, I think, a pretty thorough explanation. I wish that I had a horn. It makes it a lot easier to actually be able to pick out a couple problems and whatnot. But yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah. Thank you so much, and this was the saxophone extra credit.